Good evening and welcome to the Oxford High School Community Room, the school committee meeting for Monday, May 21st, 2021 at 6 p.m. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGL, Chapter 30A, subsection 18, and the governor's order concerning imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. Meetings in the town of Oxford will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. We'll strive to provide access to such meetings via a link or a number to call in or other similar option. In the event we are unable to accommodate same despite best efforts, we'll post recorded sessions of the meeting as soon as possible. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings. And the link and the call-in number is on the webpage of the Oxford Public Schools. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And before we start the agenda, I do want to welcome Miss Molly Cook, who's the newest member of the Oxford School Committee. So welcome, Molly. And at this time as a board, we need to reorganize our board. So we do need nominations for a chair, vice chair, and a secretary. I would open it up to the board members.
Mrs. Griffin.
Oh, that's right. Is Mrs. Griffin here? So let the record show we have 4 members in person, 1 member absent. Apologize for that. Yeah.
I'll nominate Dave Knickfield as the chair of the school committee.
All right, I'll second.
All right, we have a nomination and a second. Any discussion? Call for the vote. Ms. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
And I guess yes for me. 4 yeses, 1 absent. And we still need some nominations for a vice chair or a secretary or a secretary.
Can I just make a discussion? I feel bad that Mrs. Griffin isn't here for this. So is this something that has to be done tonight?
It actually doesn't. I should have asked that to start.
I just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep, that's a very good point, Mrs. Forbes. I should have asked that before we took the vote. Do we want to, whoever made the motion, rescind the motion and table the,
Just do the whole thing next time?
yeah,
Yeah, I'll rescind the motion.
okay, we have rescinding of
second
the
the
motion,
rescind.
and second of the rescind.
All right.
All right, any discussion on that?
No, I just,
No, it's a great point.
Okay,
Good
all right.
point by you.
Thank you.
All right, call for the vote, Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Cook? And I am a yes too.
Thank
Oh,
you.
we're off to a good start. Thank you for that. Great point, Mrs. Forbes. Student representative, we'd also like to welcome another Molly to her new role, Molly Raymond. Welcome, Molly. Good to have you here. Like to tell us a little bit about yourself maybe and then start into your report?
I'm Molly Raymond. I'm the student council president. Some things going on at Oxford High are that the seniors just started their first day of finals. They have finals all week and they have their senior prom on Friday. The student council is prepping for a fun student day after their underclassmen finals on their last day of full classes. AP exams are wrapping up this week. MCAS has been taking place. The class elections are being planned for later in June, and athletes are very excited to not have to wear their masks while taking place in sports.
Thank you very much, Molly. You're more than welcome to stay or leave at any time that you would like to do that. All right, next on the agenda, we have some consent agenda. So we have a couple things we need to do here. So we do have in our packets the meeting minutes of May 10th. It was a regular meeting. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing or hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a
Approve the
motion
minutes?
to accept the minutes from the 10th.
We have a motion. Second, there was no discussion, so I guess we'll just call for the vote. Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
You would have to abstain
Oh,
because you
there you
weren't
are.
here. Abstain, and I'm a yes. 3 yeses, 1 absent, 1 abstention. Also in the packet is the schedule of meetings for the 21-22 school year. Those are the school committee meetings. Everybody's had a chance to look at that. Any discussion around that? There is no discussion. We have a motion to, we do have to approve the meeting dates.
I'll make a motion to accept.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, no discussion. So we have to talk about reopening the public hearing for school choice FY22. So this is from our former chair, Mr. Coonan. On Monday, May 24th, 2021, the Oxford School Committee will reopen and continue its public hearing on the topic of school choice for the school year 2021-2022, which was initially opened on Monday, March 22nd, 2021, in accordance with Chapter 76, Section 12B of the Mass General Laws. All interested persons shall be given an opportunity to be heard remotely per public hearing notice duly posted with the office of the town clerk. Notice of this public hearing is also posted on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website, masspublicnotices.org. So we have to take a vote to open up the public hearing to talk about school choice.
Okay, I'll make a motion to open the discussion.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion prior to voting? All right, call for the vote. Mrs. Forbes.
Do we have to wait till people from the public might want to speak?
Well, I think we have to
Oh.
vote to
Oh,
allow
I'm sorry,
it,
yes,
yeah.
sorry.
It's all
Jump
right.
ahead of myself here. Like,
All right,
yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Ms. Cook,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Or yeses, one absent. So we are now open to the public to discuss school choice. If there's anybody at home that would like to talk, please unmute, identify who you are, and we will hear from you. Seeing and hearing nobody, we'll make a motion to close the public hearing on school choice.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, a call for the vote. Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
I'm a yes, 4 yes, 1 absent. So, information and proposals. Let's go to our secondary principals to talk about handbooks. We'll go to Ms. Belhumer from the middle school first. Mr. Nugent, if you want to come up and keep her company, I know how I used to like that back in the day, so feel free to come up because you'll be next.
It'll be quick, because I really. Do you care if we do this?
Yeah, you can take, that's fine.
Well, I didn't make any changes other than the date. So it really didn't need, we made our big changes last year with our dress code and everything like that, and with the year that we had, we didn't really see the need to make any changes going forward. If there's any need to make changes, we'll do that next year. We didn't really see that, we didn't have any hiccups come up this year that we needed to really make any changes, so. We're gonna status quo, and then if we need to really address it, we will. So,
All right. Any questions from the board? Any comments?
No.
All right. Do we want to make a motion to accept the OMS?
Make a motion to accept the Oxford Middle School 2021-2022 student handbook.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. No discussion prior to that. Call for the vote. Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
yes.
I'm a yes. 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Mr. Nugent, high school handbook.
Yeah, much like the middle school, we really don't have any major changes at the high school. Just not knowing how we're gonna open up. You know, if there are any changes, we'll certainly come back in the early fall, but we were making some good progress in March of 2019, and then everything happened, so.
Okay.
Status quo for now, but we'll come back if we feel we need to make any changes.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Nugent at the high school? All right, we need a motion to approve that.
I'll make the motion to approve the Oxford High School 2021, 2022 student handbook.
Second.
All right, there's a motion, and a second. Do we have any discussion? No. Call for the vote. Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
I'm a yes, 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Thank you both very much.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Cook.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Raymond.
All right, next on our agenda is District Accountability and Curriculum Subcommittee. So is there, Mr. Burke, is there a guest that,
We have a guest speaker tonight because you don't want to hear me talk about this, so.
So if I
Miss-
might,
Yes.
Mr. Vice Chair, just
Yes, Dr.
introduce this evening. As you know, there have been a number of months that we have been going through the vetting process of coming this evening to recommend to you the purchase of grades K through 8 ELA Instructional Resources. This evening, you'll hear from Tara Trainer, who has been our consultant throughout this process, going back to February, that unanimously our District Accountability and Curriculum Subcommittee, as well as the teachers who were involved in piloting the various chapters and sections of the textbook, are recommending that we purchase the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt grades K through 8 into reading, which is the primary one, and into literature, which is the secondary resource at the middle school. I'd like to thank, however, the members of the District Accountability and Curriculum Subcommittee and just mention who they are. 2 of our school committee members, Palmina Griffin and Corey Burke, as well as our staff, Kelly Delgado, Jill Kofsky, who work as Title I teachers, and our community parent reps, Amy Peck, Katie Proctor, Megan Rodia, and of course, I would certainly like to bring forward Tara Trainer to speak a little bit about our recommendation in our purchasing of this for 6 years. So I know when you look at the price, you get sticker shock, as I did initially, going back to my days as curriculum director, when I think $15,000 a grade was more apt to be a high price. That is not the case, but I remind you that this is a 6-year print and digital package, and it reflects every single resource that we will need within this package for our students and for our staff. So I'll let Tara speak to this a little bit and answer some questions if you might have them. We also included in your packet the actual proposal, as well as this PowerPoint that Tara had put together that gives you some background specifically about the program and the resources that we're really excited about.
Yes, we are.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Tara Trainer, for people that I haven't had an opportunity to meet before. You did such a great job. That's awesome. Well, are you graduating next year? Are you a junior and this is your first day?
Yeah.
You're awesome. Good job, good job. That's always my favorite part of school committee, is hearing about the high school stuff.
I agree.
So, yeah, isn't it so fun to be like in the schools and get it? Okay, so I brought some for you to look at. Is it okay if I cross the threshold and hint it? I just don't want to like break any like protocols, but I wanted you to get a really good, like be able to take a peek
Yeah.
at it, because you probably went to school around the time I went to school, and we actually had books in our hands and not other pieces. And so this program is really great. I'll give you each a different piece, and then you can kind of like swap them around if you're comfortable with that. And then here, I want you to look at it too. So basically what you're looking at are some consumables. So programs right now do consumables, which means that the children will get to write in these books. They're theirs to keep. And all of the stories and texts that are inside them are authentic books, which means we could go to the library and get those books. You could go to Barnes and Nobles and purchase each one of those books separately. So the kids have this great opportunity to not only use authentic text, but to write in it and then to bring it home. So that these are theirs to keep. So this also is a great way to grow our libraries at home for our students that may not have as much access to, a lot of texts. So I just thought that they were a great opportunity. So we had teachers pilot. We had 4 different companies that we brought in. They piloted 3, and it really came down to this one. I think we said 6 out of 9 grades were 100% this program. And then we had 2 that had this at the top of their list, along with another one, and then 1 grade level that had not rated it as their top. They liked the Wonders 2020 program because it was a comfortable fit, because we've had Wonders since 2009. So I certainly understood their attachment to current materials. But we really wanted to kind of move with times. We wanted to move to something that's just has a beautiful feel to it and was a little bit more flexible. Our teachers have spent the last 3 years at the K-4 level learning how to be standards-based teachers, and we really wanted to provide them materials that would allow them to use their knowledge on particular texts. A lot of the books we looked at had everything was scaffolded down the side. It said, you know, underline this, look at that, and it made the page very full. We liked that these were books the kids could read through, and then the teacher could read the next day, and we can circle the rhyming words, or we could, you know, underline the words that start with the letter T, or all those little things that that we can actually use text for, and for close reading, certainly at the upper grade levels. So any questions as you look at the materials? Is there anything that's kind of jumping out?
If I could just add a couple of bullet points. In the memo that I sent to the committee, the cost of this program on a yearly basis is a little under $50,000, and when you divide it by the number of students that it will service, it's around $45 per student per year. So it's certainly, I know it comes with a high price tag, but we really need to look at the fact that when we break it down, the cost is really not that great. This also includes professional development, although certainly your new curriculum director will be in charge, I would hope, of implementing these resources and developing a embedded program for implementation. It also includes some licenses. I think we ordered 40 licenses each for 2 intervention programs, Amara and Waggle. We are right in the process of beginning to develop and line up and match some of our intervention instructional resources. Dr. Hendershon and I and Tara had a conversation this afternoon about this. Of course, it includes all of our digital and print access for the next 6 years. So that certainly is through 2027. So when you think that far ahead, I think that's important. It also provides equity in that now all of our classroom teachers will have the same resources, particularly when it comes to leveled libraries. One of the most expensive costs of this were the leveled libraries, and that was important for us to have that K-5, the equity. It also brings equity to the middle school teachers who've been drawing and pulling resources. So now we have that across the board. We also built in additional sets of teacher resources for our SPED teachers, our Title I teachers, and some of the other positions. So we thought ahead, thinking in terms of the presentation that you will hear on June 14th, which will include additional teachers. We've incorporated almost all of that. As of last week, I think it changed a little bit at the elementary level, but we've incorporated the additional sets of resources so that SPED teachers will have K1 sets together. They won't have them individually, but they'll have the joint set. So we made sure that we didn't just incorporate it for our classroom teachers. So our SPED Title I and reading specialists will all have access to these materials.
Any questions from any members?
No, I just want to say, it's been a long time since I've looked through the teacher's manual of an elementary book, and it's like, holy, this is amazing.
Is it
Looks,
beautiful?
it really looks
Yeah,
great.
incredible.
Yes, I mean, every little extra teaching point, and I mean, just really great.
Well, it brings equity to the level of instructional ability too, for a teacher starting out, a teacher mid-road, an experienced teacher, and that's the key thing that you want in classroom. So it, and as Mr. Ledoux will point out in a presentation this evening about the ability to pay for this, you'll obviously have that, and you have that in the memo, that we are very comfortable that we have the money to pay for this.
I had a couple questions. Thank you very much. And Dr. Nash, you answered 2 of them about the PD, and it was there. I just didn't see that part. And the intervention piece, I guess the question, Ms. Trainer, is the intervention programs. I see one's K-3, one's K-8. What's the difference? Like, I guess is there a consistent path for K-3, or between Amira and Waggle? What's the difference?
Okay, so that's an awesome question. So Amira is for oral reading fluency. So this is a program that children would read to the computer would then interact back, correct any mispronunciation, slow the child, or ask them to let's try it again, let's reread. So it's a really one-on-one setup for kids that need a little bit more assistance with working on oral reading fluency. The Waggle program is for phonics. So that's where, again, it's another one-on-one program, but it's not an oral setup. It's where the kids work at their own level, working on their phonics instruction. So
Oh, that's
two
great. Thank you.
separate setups. You're welcome.
So I mean, I obviously love the, you know, the hands-on pieces.
Yeah, love it too.
How is it really user-friendly to integrate both, like the technology piece and the kind of the hands-on piece?
Yeah,
Kind of
so
just work
yeah,
itself through.
I mean, to be really truthful, the online version is where the learning has to come in for teachers. So, you know, we have to learn how to use that program. We're all pretty skilled at picking up a text, picking up the teacher's manual, and then using it for what it's worth. But inside that teacher manual, it's going to tell you, you know, play this video, check out this site, assign this. They have interactive games that go along with all the stories to, you know, work on the phonics and the extra pieces as well that we want the teachers to be able to assign to the kids to those spaces. So is it easy? No, but with a quick learning curve and with the PD, a lot of our teachers actually have already picked up on it, started using it. It was really exciting for us. After the pilot, a lot of the teachers asked, can we actually just keep using this for the rest of the year? Which we kind of gave the green light on. We were like, sure. In fact, we were fortunate enough that we called the company and we got the entire 6th grade a set for the rest of the year. They were very generous and gave those to us so that we actually had like a full pilot by the full 6th grade team with online and, you know, the hard copies. So
Great.
Yes,
Oh, that's
it's definitely usable, and the kids all get their own account, and then teachers can assign assignments, just like we see with most online pieces.
No, that's great. I mean, I guess probably, you know, obviously, we're all gonna look for positives that have come out of COVID, and probably one of the positives that people just have to jump into technology, right? Some people who are hesitant, so if there was ever a time to roll out something where you have to integrate, probably a great time to do it, right?
Yeah.
Last question for me, assessments.
Yes.
How do you assess kids' progress within this? Is there a tracking system, and is there a place to track interventions? And I mean, that's always the big issue for everybody, right? We can implement a curriculum, we can start to assess, but then tracking and making sure kids aren't falling behind. Is there something that's built in within this system that we can track kids, and how do we assess?
Yes, so all of these programs have benchmark assessments. So they're going to be fall, spring, usually
Middle,
January,
yeah.
middle,
Yeah.
and spring benchmark assessments. In addition, I know that our schools are using iStation and Dibbles as well as our benchmarking data. In terms of tracking the data and those kinds of pieces, it will track each child at those places, but in terms of progress monitoring, we didn't really get a chance to get a good look into that piece of the program yet. So I don't want to say, yes, it's there and it's awesome. That is something that, like Dr. Nash said, that Dr. Sue, Dr. Nash and myself are really looking at those intervention pieces. We really want to be very specific with who we target, when we target, and how we track that data. And the program, we will look to see what it has, like we said, through Amira and Waggle, where we did get 40 licenses for each for some of our students that really need that type of intensive work. But the truth is those programs are a child sitting in front of a computer, and we would really like to use our teachers and support staff, a child sitting in front of, you know, a small group with a teacher leading that charge. So I'm going to say, yes, it has it. But we're kind of looking to branch out a little bit so that it could be more teacher-student driven when we have that opportunity.
We're also looking at a conversation I actually had with the 2 elementary principals as part of their professional growth goal, is to develop some way to warehouse all the assessment. We have it, but we don't warehouse it well. And so we're either getting it handed to us. We need to be able to say to a teacher, you can go in and see the profile of this student, K4. And that's what we were working on, and having that conversation with Katie and as to how we do that. We may not be able to manipulate it, but at least we can see it all. And that's what we need to do. And we were saying, how do we do that? And then connect it to some of the instructional intervention resources we want in literacy, particularly around the 5 major components. If we have all of that in one place, the teachers can access it, then at least they can look at this data when they have a data team meeting and say, here's this profile of the student. So that's our initial first step in trying to do that, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, this is something that needs a school committee vote, so need a motion to approve the ELA K-8 curriculum that was just presented to us.
I'll make the motion to accept.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, call for the vote. Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
I am a yes for the affirmative, one absent.
We
Thank you.
we thank the
Thank you.
committee
Thank you,
Uh,
thank you.
Thank you
I'm
very
so
much.
excited.
and our students.
Oh, you want your books
Okay.
back?
Yeah. Well, technically they're freebies. I don't know if you want
No,
them.
the school wants to.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
we do. We will take everything we can get.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank
your
you,
work
thank
on
you.
that, Karen.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
absolutely.
All right, business office. Mr. Ledoux, I think we got a few things from you here, right? Let you take it at the preference you want.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Carnicchioli, members of the committee. I'll start with the budget to actual through April. I think that's the easiest one. I don't have much of an update for you folks this evening, as not much has changed since March. Utilities all appear to be in budget, same with salaries. As I always do, I like to jump forward a little bit, and what I'm seeing in March, substitutes. These sublines are certainly starting to be utilized a little bit more than they were earlier in the year. Not an area for concern, but I figured I would bring that up. I'll happy to answer any questions anybody has about the budget to actual report.
I was waiting for more about the subs.
We're starting to see them used as opposed to what we had in the past, partly because we were in a different learning model.
Any questions for Mr. Ledoux on the budget to actual?
I'm good, thank you.
Let's ask a quick question. I apologize, I've been on the board for 2 years now plus. Do you report to this on us once a month or each meeting?
Once a month.
Okay.
I bring a monthly report.
All right.
I normally attend every meeting, but I just
Yeah, I
report.
can't, I feel like I don't want you to have to keep coming up here and telling us the same thing. So it's once a month, perfect. All right, floor's yours.
If I may, I'd like to go to the next agenda item, and that is the use of surplus monies. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard me say multiple times throughout this year, it looks like we're gonna have a very healthy surplus as we come to the year end due to COVID and you know, the abbreviated school calendar, transportation, various things that we just simply aren't the same. First, I'd like to talk just a little bit about the source of funds. Let's see. On the second page of the memo that I included in your packet, I identify the source. I'm just kind of working backwards here. At a previous meeting, I believe it was March 1st, the committee had already approved a few of these things because we're just trying to be on top of this before, we don't want to get to the year end and run out of time, you know, before, we want to make some decisions before year end. Well, one item that was previously approved at the March 1st meeting was the $175,000 ELA. And as you just heard for those instructional resources, when we got the actual price quote, and it's a little bit different than what we anticipated. And the second item is the SPED prepayment, and that's to prepay all our collaborative tuitions for the year. We estimate about $400,000 at the time. At this point in time, we have 2 less kiddos going to collaboratives, so that's dropped a little bit. So I just wanted to bring those 2 major areas to your attention. So just talking about the sources just quickly, it seems as though what had happened when that was approved for the ELA curriculum back in March, I had put $175,000 out of salaries into the administration budget for the ELA, to earmark it for the ELA materials. So when you look at the sources, that $214,000, well, please keep in mind $175 of that is from salaries that was earmarked for that ELA. So that looks rather large. And the other large area is transportation. We had quite the savings in transportation due to not transporting kiddos on Fridays and no late buses. Bus monitors were paid through grant sources, so we've had quite a substantial surplus in those lines as well. So now I'm going to jump right into the,
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So as we're looking at the surplus areas under ACE, the coffee building, what did we save money on? Like, what are we paying for over there?
it's roughly just over $13,000 in overhead costs, and that's lights, alarm, phone, pest control,
So we've never had that discussion about the town taking it back or
You
anything,
voted on
We
it.
did.
You voted on it
Right.
last
Yes.
January, I
but
believe.
we're still paying for it.
For this
For
fiscal
this
year,
fiscal year.
Oh, okay.
and
as of
then-
7/1, we will
They
no
take
longer
it.
have that in our budget, and those overhead costs
Right,
will be
that's right.
All right, thank
assumed
you.
by the town.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Mr. Ledoux, before you move to, I'm not sure, are you switching to high school scoreboard? Or are you still?
No,
on
no,
sur-
no,
oh, you're
I'm still just on it
surplus?
for the
Okay.
moment. So, with all that, there's been a little bit of change since our March 1st meeting, but, you know, this is now our solid figures for what we got. So I'm gonna go right through the items we're looking for approval for, these new expenditures with the surplus monies. The first one, as you heard, is the K-8 ELA Instructional Resources. That's $294,000. The second item that we have, you might have heard Mr. Phillips talk about this. In 2016, we received roughly, I think it was 650,000 capital improvement. It's been 5 years now, and a lot of those Chromebooks that were purchased that time are now at the end of their life. So we'd like to purchase another 450 to put them back into rotation. That's going to be $121,000 for those. Also, as part of that, excuse me, I'm not really sure if it was part of that capital influx of money back in 2016, but we have smart boards at Chafee School, 16, that we would like to replace with interactive projectors, and that's going to be $43,000. So that's probably one of the lower dollar amounts on this chart here. As I kind of spoke to a little bit earlier, was the prepayment of the collaborative tuitions. At this point in time, it's $285,000. Just a little bit more explanation on that. What that's going to do is we're using this year's money to prepay tuitions that we have budgeted for next year. That's going to free up $285,000 for next year. So what we're trying to think ahead and just make sure, you know, we're going to have that'll allow for surplus money in case anything happens next year. The next item I have is charge FREC expenditures to general fund. Now, what I mean by that is to take any expenditures that we have charged to the FREC revolving fund, what that is mainly for building improvements. So we spent $69,000 this year against that revolving fund. I want to take those expenditures and charge them to general fund, freeing up roughly $70,000 in the revolving fund. Some of the things we purchased this year: storage containers at the schools for the furniture. We purchased a warmer at Barton in the kitchen that had died. Sinks and faucets at the elementary schools, we had replaced those in the main bathrooms. We're currently working on the rear bathrooms, but that hasn't happened yet. And flooring at Chafee, we did replace a whole wing of carpeting at the Chafee school. And there was a few other miscellaneous COVID-related items. I believe signage we had charged to that FREC revolving fund. So again, that's just under $70,000 in building improvement items. And again, what that'll provide you with roughly $150,000 in that FREC revolving account for next year for any other building improvements, you know, the committee might want to make. Along those same lines is the charging food service employees their salaries to general fund. Historically, the program usually loses about $50,000 a year. If you do not have that in your revolving fund, the general fund now has to pick that up. So what this will do is will at least provide, it'll do two things. It'll make it so your general fund doesn't have to pick up any deficits in that fund. It'll buy you a little bit of time, you know. Also, any equipment purchases. You've heard me talk a little bit about the equipment aging in that program, so this will leave some excess money in that fund in case, you know, any unforeseen things happen, or the committee, you know, decides that, you know, hey, maybe we want to get some new equipment for food service or anything along those lines. And lastly, excuse me, I take that back. This is the lowest item for $4,700. The floor washer for Chafee. The floor washer that we currently have there is just over 10 years old. Actually, one of the wheels just fell off. We had it fixed. But this would get a nice new one that hopefully we would plan on using the old one as a backup and keeping this as our primary machine over there. So as you can see, the total we have is $920,000 for all of these items for our year-end money. I had previously estimated about 975 at the last meeting. To back up a little bit, May 14th, I cut off any more charges to our general fund lines. So anything that has to do with supplies, materials, or contracted services, all of the principals and administrators, program directors would get all their purchase orders in for that. So this is now, if you will, free money that's available at the end of the year. Just to kind of give you an explanation of how everything's kind of fitting together. So at this point in time, just in those lines, now that doesn't include salary lines, that's only the supplies, materials, contracted services. We will have a balance left over in those lines of just under $970,000. So as you can see here, we're spending $920,000. That'll leave us just under $50,000 to get us through the end of the year for any unforeseen items that might pop up. And again, that's only just putting the blinders on, only looking at supplies, materials, and contracted services. Again, I have not looked at salaries. I've kind of set that aside as it is what it is. You know, that's most of that is spoken for. And lastly, when I talk about salary lines, we have 3 more payrolls to go this year. I anticipate we will have roughly another just over 200,000 left in those salary lines, depending on where substitutes go and things of that nature, our athletic stipends and certain other things that didn't come to fruition. We're working on those now. But again, I anticipate another 200,000. So the request I have at this time for the committee is to authorize the items that I've identified in this list. In addition to that, to authorize any surplus funds to be put into additional revolving funds. And what the plan is to start working on those and bring back to you a list sometime in June with where those monies would go in revolving. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Burke?
Thanks, Justin.
Yes.
Just on the Chromebooks, and I think Katie may have mentioned this when he was here, but I just want to be clear. The 450, is that a good number for us to start kind of that replacement rotation so that they're not all dying at the same time and we're not?
Right, that's that big chunk that you bought in 2016, and if we waited to another time, this expense would probably be too much for a regular budget, so that gets you over that hump, and then on a year-to-year basis, you'd be replacing a lot less, more around probably 100 or so. So, yeah, we asked him about that. Does that make sense at this point? Yes, the answer was yes. Yep.
Perfect. That's it for me, thanks.
The interactive projectors get us across the district. This is, I think, the last building that needs to be addressed so that all of them across the district in Barton, OMS, OHS, and now Chafee will be upgraded and will be able to be functioning the way we want them to. So.
Any other questions or comments? Just real quick, Ms. Ledoux, so just for clarification, if we approve the recommended surpluses, that's gonna leave us with 50,000.
Just under 50.
And then potentially 200 in salary, so you could be coming back to us with about 250,000
Yes.
more in surplus requests.
Yes, sir.
Excellent, thank you. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the surplus purchases as presented by Mr. Ledoux.
Motion, is there a second?
Second that.
I'll call for any discussion. Seeing and hearing none, call for the vote. Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
I'm a yes, 4 affirmative, 1 absent. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, do we need a second motion to, what was it? Yeah, request that the school committee approve
To allow him to come
to allow you
up with a
to
list.
put the rest of those money in the revolving funds, Justin, is that what you're asking for? Two things you're asking for, or is that taken care of?
Yes, sir.
He's
Yes, we
gonna
did
co-
not include that in the first motion.
I didn't put that in the motion, but I can put that in the motion to start working on the surplus list for the additional funds you expect to have based on salaries or substitutes.
Do we need to, is that something he can just do and then
I
bring to us?
recommend to you
Right.
that come back. We
We don't
wanted to
really-
really show you the intent, which was to earmark these for revolving funds unless something comes up that we need. But we'll bring that list back to you. But I think as long as you've clarified that and you're aware and you're comfortable with us not going back to look at any other other things that you may need, we're fine in coming back at the June meeting.
So you don't need a motion from us?
No, I don't think so.
Go ahead and put it
I
resolved.
think as long as you have acknowledged that that's the way you want us to go, we're fine. You don't
Okay.
need to vote.
Thank
want-
you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ledoux, high school scoreboard update, is that where you are?
Yes.
All right.
Now, lastly, just this is just an update, informational only. Geez, where do I start? This has been a long time in the making. I want to say just a few years ago, the committee, had started this whole process. I kind of got involved just towards the end here. So I'm not going to speak to the evolution of this, from back then, but just from what I know, we did have a couple companies, provide designs for a new scoreboard for out there in the athletic field. The company that we normally go with, Scoreboard Enterprises, that's who services a lot of our items. That's who, Kevin May, the athletic director had recommended, you'd like to go with this company, and they had quoted the project. Looking into it, they're part of a consortium out of Western Mass, I want to say. So what that does, it exempts us from 30B when it comes to price solicitation and going out to bid and things like that. Probably providing way too much information outside of the scope of this, but that's why we have selected this vendor where we're comfortable with their work. They're local, I believe they're out of Mansfield, so they're right out of Mass. It's not like we're ordering it from the Midwest and some scoreboard's going to show up here and then we have to put it in. So these folks will come here and install it for us. The other part of this, the committee had already authorized the purchase of this, but I really want to dig into the design and everything and make sure everybody was on board. But just to kind of give you refresh everyone's memories, this will be paid from athletic revolving fund. There's $47,000 in the gate receipts. This is different than the revolving athletic fees. There's just over $70,000 in that, and that's going to be used for our athletic trainer. As you can see, this will be $24,000. It's just under $24,000, so it's not like we're depleting the fund. Now on to the good stuff. So the design, we've gone back and forth with the Maisley family because we wanted their approval absolutely before we purchased the scoreboard and have the committee dedicated or some type of dedication ceremony. And I'm pleased to let everyone know that they're on board with it. As you can see, the final page is the design. We kind of went back and forth of having a plaque underneath the scoreboard or a truss above. We ended up with the truss on the top. I'm not sure that this is, if you received it in color, I mean, mine's black and white, but it's, I believe it's orange lettering up top. Orange or white, excuse me, now I'm questioning myself, but.
I can see it in colors. It's white letters with orange trim around it.
Oh, okay, thank you. So this is the final design. I spoke with the vendor here, and they're looking at sometime in late July, they'll be able to install this. So I think we'll be right on track to have a dedication, for homecoming next year, I think was the intent. But I just wanted to provide the committee with an update as to where we are with that. Not to be confused with the sign out front, the LED sign. I'm going to come back to the future meeting as we kind of just ironed out all the details on that procurement. But this one, I think we're good with everything. And it's exciting, though I can't wait to see it in July once it goes in.
Yeah, you did a good job. Thank you. It's beautiful.
Thanks, Justin. Any comments or questions for Ledoux? That's it, right?
That's all.
All right, thank you, sir.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin.
All right, Dr. Nash. You have a few items for there, so I'll let you take over.
Sure, thank you. You have some additional information that was requested when we postponed the school choice vote. We provided you with, through the district registrar's office, Nick Packett, he provided you with, I think, 3 different sets of information. The first set of information shows you the student population with respect to school choice those who've gone out of district and those who've come in district. So you see the numbers, you can compare those. The second set of information shows you the school choice vote from FY14 to FY21 and the number of seats that were actually filled as a result of the vote. There is 1 year in FY14 where the number of seats at the grade levels identified were not listed, but with the other years, you have those listed. And then the last 2 pages show you where our students are attending. And I have summarized that for you, just and broke it out by percentages. On the second page of the document I gave you, I showed you the percentages of students from 2020 and 2021 and the types of schools that they're attending, broken out by public, private, vocational, and charter. You can see that it's pretty consistent. There was a little bit of a slippage in 2021 with respect to the percentage of students under 5% attending private school, but vocational schools have remained pretty constant. My hunch would be that it probably has been that way over a period of years. Fewer students in 2020 attending public, private, vocational, or charter schools, and more students certainly this year opting out for some other types of schools. I also gave you just some general comments on these sheets. Would point out that we have seen a general increase in the number of students, not large, but a general increase in the number of students, except for 1 year, opting to leave Oxford Public Schools. Our average percentage of students, or number of students who have choiced out over the last 10 years, we average around 82 per year. Conversely, those who choice in is about 10 times less than that. 8 times less than that, or 10 students per year. When school choice has been voted, historically we've not opened it up to elementary seats. It has been opened up at the secondary level, including middle school. Again, if you look at the percentage of seats that are filled at any given time, we're looking over the history of the number of seats where we knew the number of openings during those years. In FY16, 17, and 20, we saw that of the 71 total seats that were opened in those years, 38% were filled. So we're seeing more choice out and fewer choice in. We are recommending, the administrators and I, again, this evening, that we do not vote. The committee consider next year as not the best year to vote to choice in students. Point out a couple, there are lots of reasons, particularly for next year, but I think many of them deal with, the impact of us trying to accelerate learning, identify learning loss for the students that we currently have in the district. I provided 3 points with that rationale. I won't go over them, but they deal with, one of them is significant to our elementary school principals who, on June 14th, as their presentation as part of the district learning recovery plan, will be talking about the drastic reduction of class size at the elementary level that we'll be proposing. And of course, obviously, we do that for a reason. There's much research that supports that. Second, certainly, is the position that all school districts are in with respect to understanding the different educational models that students who might choice into this district next year might have gone through this year, and the difficulty in trying to address that and trying to ascertain what that looks like, particularly in assessments that we would have administered already to the students who are currently here. And then thirdly, we've been tracking over the year the principals, the adjustment counselors, school psychologists, our social workers, the emotional needs of our students, the social well-being needs of the students. They know them well. And I think that's another challenge for us, having students come in not really knowing what they might have struggled through last year. It's not that I think school choice is not an option. I think it certainly is an option. I just question whether next year is the right year to do it. I certainly am not someone who is opposed to it. It's just the timing is everything. And I think right now, this may not be the best time for districts and for us to consider it. But obviously, it's a school committee decision. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Nash. Members, any questions or comments for Dr. Nash?
Thank you for the research on this and all those numbers. I
Thanks
appreciate
to
that.
our registrar who was able to provide all of that.
Thank you, Nick. Mr. Packard. All right.
So I do have a couple of questions. I do also appreciate the information. I know I'd asked for it. So I guess, Dr. Nash, the 82 to 10 comparison, that 8 to 10, or 8 times less that we are taking in, what's the difference financially? Could you tell me, so if we're losing 82 a year and we're only bringing in 10, what's the financial difference? Like,
On average, it's 5,000, but you have to look at who these students are and what services they receive. So when you, and I don't have access to that list, but generally, the state used to send you the list of all those students, and you can get a breakout of what the average cost might be. So the cost can range, I think, the highest cost that I had seen in a district that I was in was 12,000 for a particular student, most being 5,000. And we are fortunate in that in this district, we don't use school choice as a means to support our budget, as you certainly know. So we're not at a point where if we don't have students come financially, we're struggling. That's not us, but it ranges anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000 depending on the services the students receive. And that's an estimate. The 5 is a definite, but the 12,000 plus.
and I appreciate that. So so if we lost 82 kids at $10,000, right? If my math, it just ballpark, right? She said the range could be between 5 and 12.
The majority are going to be at 5,000,
Okay.
depending on whether or not those students are receiving services. Those could be a little bit more, but I would say the majority are 5.
So 5,
Yeah.
so that'd be about, is that 400,000? And then we're taking in 50,000.
Justin, do you know how much we're taking in yearly on school choice? Because that number dwindles as kids leave.
35,000 or so. It's just under 40,000.
You know, my
We can
concern.
get the documents for you if you'd like.
No, I just, just ballpark. My concern continues to be the fact that, this year, every time we hear financial, we feel like we're, things are good. I mean, we're surplusing and we're able to do this and that, and with ESER. I'm just concerned for sustainability, obviously beyond that, because if we looked at those numbers that would just blew me away a couple months ago of how drastic our enrollment is, and we're gonna start losing people.
Right.
Is what we're gonna do. Like, it's all good now, so that's my concern. I also, to your point, Dr. Nash, you talked about the elementary principals being concerned. It's not open to elementary. I don't see any elementary seats
I
that we've
was
ever offered.
referring to part of their plan that they're going to present on June 14th.
All right.
Is about class size reduction. So moving forward, it would kind of contradict what they're going to try to present to you. That's all. That
Okay,
was my
all
point.
right, so then I might
But
have misread
I
that.
would, if I could just add something,
sure.
I think if the consideration down the road is to look at adding seats, potentially you find fewer and fewer students who ever want to come to school choice at high school. Why? Because they want to graduate with the people that they have spent their years with. Secondly, if you see them, they typically are students who aren't going to meet your graduation requirements. So they're coming forward oftentimes as juniors or seniors simply because there have been some issues in the district they're in. You really have to consider, as tough as it sounds, looking at it at the elementary level, if you really want to sustain some population where kids are going to stay with you for a period of time. And I know that's difficult sometimes for committee members and for the public to absorb, because most of us would rather say, oh, let's put them at the high school. But historically, I've not seen great success in different districts that I've been in where we just earmarked students at the high school level.
Yeah, and I just, and to your point too, you said, only 38% or less than that have accepted these seats. I just, I look at the last 2 pages of this, and you just look at the whole list of schools where kids go. And for us just not to be an option for someone else, A, but B, to have it maybe help us, again, I agree with you. School choice isn't what's gonna sustain your budget, I get it. But if it can help offset some of the loss, I mean, we lost 407 kids.
I think your target is your public school. Why are they going to another public school? There are people who are going to choose to go to vocational and private schools, most of which are religious schools that obviously they pick those for a particular reason. voc tech schools because of what they can offer that a comprehensive high school doesn't. But I think your target is that 23%, that 20% who are going off to another public school. Question why? Is it partly because a parent maybe works in that district and it's open to them? Is that it? So doing some digging into that to try to find out who exactly these people are, whether you can, I think is a critical way to start looking at, well, what does that mean for us and how do we go after them?
I mean, obviously, it's probably no secret where I stand on this. I feel we should do it. You know, the last year, we really opened it up in 17. I mean, you only had one kid in 5th, 2 in 6th. I mean, for me, it provides kids an opportunity, it provides us as a district to continue some of the great things we do. We're losing numbers drastically, you know, in classrooms, outside of classrooms. So to me, I don't think it's gonna paralyze us, and we control the number of students that we allow in. I mean, it's not like it's just gonna be opening up. We can specify the grade, the number of students. So that's it for me. If there's anything else, Mr. Burke?
And I think, Dave, I would agree with you on that. I think the administration and Dr. Nash have done a good job of kind of making some points about this year in particular. And I guess for me, the 35 to 40,000 that we do bring in currently really isn't helping us as much as I think what we need to look at, and like Dr. Nash was saying, is I think we need to build some stability around here that makes people want to stay. And I think that we're off on the right track there. I think, you know, Dr. Nash obviously has done a wonderful job, and I think we did a great job with our search, and I'm hoping the new superintendent sticks around for a while, and we do build up some stability here, and people want to stay in Oxford. But I do see this as, and people want to come to Oxford too, right? That's what we're trying to look at with school choice. But I think when you look at what we need to do next year based on what's happened this past year and a half is a good argument for focusing on our Oxford kids right now and not bringing in, I guess it's only 10 kids, but not bringing in 10 additional kids. There's some work that needs to be done.
Yeah, no,
That's my thought on that.
No, thank you, Mr. Burke. I do appreciate that. I also think in a counter to that, if there is a time to bring some kids in, now's the time, because we're gonna have the resources to do it. I mean, they're gonna come to us in a couple of weeks with multiple ideas to provide extra additional support. So if they're on a counter argument to it, if there's ever a time, now is the time to do it, to get some of those kids in and get them on a path that's gonna be successful for them, but I digress. Mrs. Forbes.
All right, thank you. So I feel like you looked at my cheat notes, Mr. Burke.
I'm sorry.
So I feel like the problem for us is, you know, let's just say perception, and we're working really hard to change the perception with the stability was really one of the words that I had written here. I am very concerned, as I've said in many meetings, about what's gone on or not gone on the last year and a half. I also agree very strongly with what was brought forth by Dr. Nash and the administrators. We really need to focus hard on who we've got. And yes, I know it would only be 38% of the seats we opened up that actually get filled. $40,000 doesn't do a lot for us. And oftentimes we get $5,000 and then we find out that the student is going to cost us a lot more. All of our students have additional needs, academically, socially, emotionally. I have to agree with Mr. Burke that I don't feel this is the right year to do it. Yes, we have these extra resources, but I really feel like we've got to focus hard on our kids and maybe look at this for another year.
Thank you, Mrs. Forbes. Any other discussion? This does need a vote and it needs a motion. So if there's a motion on the floor,
I'll make a motion to not participate in school choice for the 2021-2022 school year.
I'll second that.
all right, we have a motion and a second. I think we've had some lengthy discussion, so I'll just call for the vote. So the motion was again, could you just repeat the motion?
The motion is to not participate in school choice for the 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you, sir.
Due to enrollment.
Due to enrollment, sorry.
And can
Mrs.
I just clarify?
Yes.
That's at all levels.
Correct.
Okay. I'll second the motion.
All right, it's been made and seconded. Call for the vote. Mrs. Forbes,
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Ms. Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a no. 3 yes, 1 no, 1 absent. Motion passes. Dr. Nash, you are still up.
I
I think
am.
cost of the ELA curriculum, I think we're good with, right?
We are.
All right, so
Moving on to more
ESER
money.
funds, all right, more money.
More money, as they say, more money.
Great.
So as you know, we had received the fund allocation for ESA two. That was $1,339,789. That remains the same. We initially gave you an estimate for ESA three that was a little over $3,100,000. And then we revised that based on an estimate that we had received. And that was an estimate that brought it back down to $2,986,517. However, I'm happy to announce that as of today, everybody knows how much money they're getting. And we are now back up to $3,101,623 for a grand total of $4,481,412 that the entire administrative team has been working on revising a plan that we will present to you, a 2-year plan that we will present to you June 14th. At this point in time, we believe. We also will say that our plan does involve the looking at, ESER 3 came with some requirements, looking at some of them we've already done. For example, one of the requirements is a safe return to in-person instruction within 30 days of receiving your funds. Well, remember, this is a federal plan, so there are many school districts across the country, I assume, who are still not back in school full-time. The ESER funds also include consulting with stakeholders. Our building principals have been working with all of their staff on these plans. They've gone through many iterations. I've met with them numerous times, including this week, and we're still working out some of the kinks and looking at this particularly and engaging our stakeholders. And then there's a maintenance of effort, if you will, or what we call maintenance of equity, which basically means that you can't use it really to fund your budget. In essence, the point of this is to accelerate, address learning loss, and all of that. So we will make sure that our plan does not do that. And actually, the components of our plan really add staff that you will see. And it's going to be a busy summer for these administrators. Honestly, it's a great busyness, but it's going to be busy. So that's it for my update on the ESER funds. Good news.
Thank you, Dr. Nash. So we do have a warrant report, but Mrs. Griffin is not here, so do we?
Confirm that she did sign all of the warrants, or somebody just wants to read them.
Okay. Would you like to read them, Mrs. Forbes? Oh, that used to be your job, right?
It used to be my job, and
Pretty good, thank you.
all right, so a warrant was signed, a payroll warrant was signed dated May 13th, 2021 for $578,122.95. An accounts payable warrant dated May 18th for $61,388.90. And I'm assuming she will sign a another accounts payable warrant dated May 25th for $140,272.65 as soon as she is able.
Thank you, Mrs. Forbes. Did we vote on that? I can't recall. No, we don't. We just-
Informational purposes only.
Thank you very much. The assignment of the 21-22 subcommittee reps, I think we should hold that until next meeting, and also
I agree.
the assignment of the 21-22 authorized signer, we'll hold that till next meeting. And we have member comments and requests, Mrs. Forbes.
All right, so I'll start with, I guess, requests. Food service. Year after year after year, we talk about and hear about food service. And I know that we have looked into different things, possibly addressing that. I would just like to bring it to the forefront of somebody that I would love to continue looking into a way to fix that system, if possible. My second question is for the elementary principals. I would love to see those new sinks and bathrooms. I would love to come and visit if that's possible. I am double vaccinated and I really enjoy being able to go into the schools and seeing the kids in action and the teachers in action. So I wanted to put that out there as a request. My comments, I'm sorry that Tara Trainer left. I just wanted to let her know how much I appreciate. I've heard such great things about her, her knowledge, her help for us, her PD. We have really had some great work done by her and with her. Thank you to Palmina and Corey and all of the people who worked on the committee with you, all of the extra work that you guys have done. I was fortunate to be able to attend the senior sports banquet that was held last Thursday night. It was a great event. We have some great coaches, some great athletes that were there represented. I'm looking forward to the NJHS virtual induction ceremony this Wednesday, and I would like to welcome the two Mollies. Nice to have you ladies with us. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mrs. Forbes. Mr. Burke.
As usual, we left nothing. So I welcome Molly and welcome Molly. Thank you. And I will say, very impressed with Tara and all her work that she did in the committee that worked with her, not my committee, but the group that did all the piloting. They put on a fantastic presentation about all the programs they looked at and really did their homework. So that was great to see.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Ms. Cook, it wasn't too long ago you were just in this community room as a student, so I know it's probably been a little overwhelming tonight, but anything that you want to add or say?
No, just thank you all for welcoming me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. Very glad to have you. Thank you. Just real quick, yeah, obviously welcome to Molly Cook, a new member of the board. It's going to be really nice to have a person's voice who was just in this building a short time ago. It's great to have Molly Raymond with us too. She was part of our subcommittee for the superintendent search, and she did a great job there, and I'm really impressed she stayed the whole meeting, so thank you for that, Molly. I would ask maybe next year you can coordinate with Ms. Bellhumer, because we had this middle school voice in the past. I know when I was there, we tried to get the middle school voice in, so that'd be great if you could partner with them for next school year, obviously not this year. That would be awesome, so thank you. I think that is it for me. At this time, I'd like to open up for public comment. Anybody from the public who would like to make a comment, please unmute and identify who you are. All right, I'm going to close public comment. I don't even think there's anyone else on that screen, Tim, is there?
We're alone
Is
tonight.
it just, am I just looking at myself and your name? I think that's really it. Okay, excellent. Future business, topic for future agendas. If there is anything that we would like on the agenda, please, does it go to me for right now, Helen, or does it go to you?
or me.
Okay, all right, so any future topics? And our next regular meeting will be Monday, June 14th, 2021. Wow. All right, at this time, we are going to go into executive session. So pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, the committee will enter executive session to conduct a strategy session in preparation for contract negotiations with non-union personnel, superintendent of schools, and we will not return to open session. Is there a motion on the floor to enter executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second the motion. Any discussion? No discussion, call for the vote. Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
I'm a yes, 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. We are going to go to executive session. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.